how I was going to address the crowd, but watching the film was very emotional for me. I'll tell you my story first, just briefly, just so you know how I got here, and understand my thought process and why this bill that we have in our assembly side is so important. Once I spoke with Raphael and David, they came to my office and they wanted to talk about this. The bill was already out there. Assemblyman Peterson had it, and I immediately after talking with the guys, I just knew I had to be on board. But I grew up in a housing authority in Hoboken. I am a single mom of 3. Every stereotype I guess you can think of, I represent. I got my GED. I don't have a college degree. I have 3 boys, 2 different fathers. We've been in the court system, the fighting back and forth, everything you can possibly think of. And this film, the reason why I say I got emotional was because we all go through it. And when there's breakups, we get emotional. We don't realize that we're fighting, adults are fighting, and we don't realize the impact we have on our children. And my youngest son, I remember being in court, and it was just this saga. It was like, oh, he's going to court to get a couple of dollars, whether he was going to get arrested, he didn't have money, it was this whole thing. And the judge really could care less. He barely looked at me. And I had all my paperwork, and he didn't, and he was like, I don't have money, what am I bringing? And I remember sitting there saying to myself, what am I doing here? Hey, he's in arrears. I'm not getting that money. The judge looks bored. He mispronounced my name, then called me a different name. And I said to myself, you know what? In the middle of him trying to discuss our case, I said to the judge, forget it. I don't want it. He goes, excuse me, that's the one time that he looked up. I said, I don't want it. Drop the case. He quickly was ready. He goes, you sure? I said, yep, drop the case. No more child support. Of course, father looks over to me like, is she kidding? What's up her sleeve? And he says, all right, well, he owes $3,000 arrears. I'm going to drop the case, and he owes $3,000. I go, nope, no arrears either. Wipe it. We walked out, and for the first time, I was just exhausted. I did it out of exhaustion. It wasn't out of kindness of my heart, so I'm going to be very transparent. And I walked out, and for the first time, he talked to me respectfully. And he says, are you serious? And I said, what are we doing? We have a beautiful boy. You're his father. I'm his mother. We have a judge telling us what to do. We're still fighting. I don't want this anymore. What for? Who wins? We had a better relationship right after that day. Wow. Not without bumps. Don't get me wrong. We're still human, right? We still have a feeling, oh, you loser. No, you're a loser. No, you said. No, you suck. It's that back and forth until you start to see, what are we gaining? What are we winning? There's no winning. I have this young man looking at me who struggles because the damage was done. So I feel guilty, and I have to do better. And we all have to do better. It's just not for our children, because remember, our children are going to interact with other children, and they're going to become adults, and they're going to go into society. And, I remember saying to my kids, and I have 3 boys, and I remember saying to them, anybody messes with you, I'm going to kick their ass. I remember saying this as a young mother. What did I know? Until one of them said to me, as an adult, what happens, Mom, when the person that's hurting you is your own parent? Now, he could say that as an adult, right? Because he's not a kid. He's not afraid no more. He's a father himself. And I remember holding that guilt, and I remember saying to myself, I'm a horrible parent. You think you're doing the right thing, but you're not. And if 2 people came together at some point, you loved each other, or at least cared enough to conceive, you have to hold on to that. And we need to fight more for that, because the courts really don't care. They're overwhelmed. And we as legislators can pass a bill, but if we don't have a manual to go with it, it's going to mean nothing. So we have to really come together as a community, as a society, because, look, doctors can only do so much. Lawyers are going to keep making money, and we're going to give them cases. They're not there to help our children. They're there to present a case and win and get paid. And our children deserve so much more. And we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to them. And the one thing I like to always think about, especially when I have other parents that are still struggling and still in that hate mode, I always say, well, what happens if you drop dead today? Because your life is not promised. What happens if you drop dead today? Now what happens to your kid? We have to really think about these things and put our ego aside and really, you messed up, but you have to come clean and work together. And I don't have all the answers, but I know there are families out there just like me, struggling, trying to piece it together. And I have these 3 beautiful boys that didn't have to go through things that they went through because I didn't know any better. I was just going through the motion. And this bill is very important to me, and it is a fight, and we need people out there to really come forward and really talk about this because, you know, some people just don't want to talk about it. They really don't because it's, oh, now you're prying into my life. I don't want you to know what's going on. I don't want you to judge me. And we really got to put all that aside and really think about the children because teachers are overwhelmed. I mean, remember my son going to a therapist, and this guy was a psychiatrist, and it's another thing. You have to find the right fit. He finally found someone that he loves. That, I mean, this person will do anything for him and really guide him in the right way, but it took how many tries? I remember a psychiatrist telling him, I'm not here to listen to you. I'm just here to see how the medication works. When he told me that, I had to really control myself from busting into that office. I said, he's done. But that doesn't mean all psychiatrists are like that. It's just you have to find the right fit. In every walk of life, you find police officers, politicians, teachers, people that shouldn't be doing their job, but they're there. We have to go past that and just find the right person and come together. And it's a village that we need to really make a bill come to life and to really make a huge impact. Because the courts will fight, the judge will fight, the lawyers will fight, because all a money-making thing, no one likes change. And if you have to change things, they'd rather just not do that. Let's just figure this out. And I remember people saying, well, we wouldn't have this problem if people act right. They don't go to court. Well, that's easy to say and done. But we need to do better. And I feel that as a legislator, my purpose is, because I never wanted to be an assembly person, never wanted to get involved in politics. I hated politics. That's a whole other story. But I did it, and I'm here. And I say to myself now, the reason why I'm here is for this. Things like this. My life story, mistakes I've made, how we're going to change it, and how it impacts every walk of life. It's just not specific kids. It's not just kids of color. Every kid is affected. And it really is a huge impact. And we can make such a difference if we start listening to our children, let them love who they want to love. And if they had mommy and daddy before loving them, just because they break up doesn't mean they have to stop loving them. So I am here to listen and learn. And we have great professionals here that are just going to give us more insight and help us create a bill that's going to be strong and hopefully make an impact in our wonderful state of New Jersey. So, thank you.